Greetings, travelers. I'm your host, the C. that knows a lot, Dr. Waluigi. Well, this review is going to be a special one, as it's my first request by an acquaintance. Let's go with an acquaintance. The man, the myth, the legend, Aficianados Chris, who has requested that I cover one of the many terrible ripoffs of the critically acclaimed Spielberg movie E.T., which I will fully admit that I don't quite care for. I don't hate the movie or anything, but it's just not one of his movies that I've ever loved. Truthfully, when I saw this movie at 6, there was a scene that scared me so much that I never saw the movie again till a few years ago, which upon rewatching it, I felt it was okay, but I personally enjoyed Spielberg's other alien movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But E.T. is the one that became very popular, and like with anything that gets popular, it gets a ton of ripoffs. In particular, this one has the distinction of being one of the worst ripoffs, as well as one of the worst movies ever made. But we'll just have to find out for ourselves, won't we, as we take a look at the 1987 ripoff movie, Nukie. The history of this movie is quite a long, yet incredibly stupid one the more I read up on it. Apparently, the producer of the film, Michael Pakalepa, greenlit the film long before it even began filming, nor did he even read the script and wanted to make the film because the poster looked cool. Once he saw the final product of the first draft, he was... well, to say that he was horrified by how awful it was is an understatement. Both Michael and the director, Sias Odendahl, tried hard to remove a lot of the film's more awkward parts, which amounted to only having 40 minutes of the film left that could be used. So they ended up having to reshoot the movie in order to make it appealing for general audiences. Shocking to no one, critics hated the movie and panned it for being a terrible ripoff of E.T. and lacking any semblance of charm, which has led this film to be put on many people's worst movies of all time lists, including one of my favorite internet critics, the Cinema Snob. Hell, this is one of the rare cases where the movie has never been released outside of VHS, and even those copies go for a ridiculous price thanks to another team of critics, called Red Letter Media, destroying multiple copies of the movie that were sent by fans. While I can't say I would have ever checked this movie out if not for the request, I have at least known about this movie for a while thanks to the Cinema Snob's review. I will say that while I agree that the movie deserves to be in a worst movies of all time list, I can't say that I put it up that high after having seen it, but we'll get to my reasons by the end of the review. The movie follows two alien brothers that get stranded on Earth. The first one, named Miko, lands in the US and is captured by the government, while the other, named Nukie, lands in Africa. He tries to find someone who can help him get to America, but is constantly thwarted by miscommunication and the locals who are superstitious of him. Can Nukie find a way to get to Miko, or will he be another dead rat for the American government to study? While there aren't a ton of well-known actors in this, the cast is still relatively decent for this movie. Believe me, I've seen movies with some of the worst acting imaginable, but these actors were okay. Nothing too impressive, but I can at least say that I didn't hate any of the characters in this, or found any performance so unbearable that it made me want to rip my ears off. I guess the best character moments for me was when, at the government facility, Miko ends up giving an AI emotions and it learns to express itself more and more as the movie goes on. Those scenes were honestly the most entertaining in the whole movie, as they made me both confused and laugh my ass off for how ridiculous the whole thing was. It might not be anything to write home about, but hey, I'll take what I can get from a rip-off movie like this. Despite the movie being a ripoff of E.T., I have to say that it at least looks better compared to something from The Asylum or the Killer Donuts movie I reviewed a few years ago. The costumes, the sets, and the camera work were all done with competent people, and I like the way these aliens travel with them being creatures that are made of light. It's these few things that made the movie much more tolerable than what I was expecting from something that is considered to be as bad as Birdemic or The Room. From what I saw, I can say that there are at least 3 big problems with the movie. One is the terrible editing. The movie constantly goes back and forth between America and Africa, but the scenes are so random and infrequent that it makes you feel like you're getting whiplash by how often the scenes bounce back and forth, which is made worse by having a captain's log narrator that explains what is happening to Miko at the American institution where he's been captured. On the Africa side, one thing that never made sense to me is why we hear some of the animals talk like they're speaking to Nukie telepathically, yet they continue to speak to the human characters like they could hear what they're saying. It's so random and it's never brought up in the movie. 2 are the suits for the aliens. Even though I liked the costumes used for the human characters, the designs of the aliens, while not the worst I've seen, although for some reason they reminded me of the chocolate monsters from that one Count Chocula commercial, do still have the same problems as the suits from the Garbage Pail Kids movie, with the heads not functioning properly and the lip flaps not matching with the voiceover. But really, that's the only bad thing about them. Yeah, the suits are very cheap imitations of the E.T. designs, but for a low-budget film, I was expecting their costume designs to be more like hoodies covered in crap brown spray paint. And finally, we have the terrible pacing of the movie. So much of this movie feels like it's meandering along, it leads to nothing until we sporadically go back to the main plot, where we see Nukie trying to get to America but constantly fails. It just makes you want to hit your head against the wall for how boring the movie is, and it leaves you wishing that there were more entertaining moments in the movie. At the end of the day, this movie is still a bad piece of media, but if I'm being completely honest, this wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. Yes, the film has its issues with the terrible editing, writing, and the other million things that this movie gets wrong, but it doesn't do anything unique that makes it stand out from the other bad movies I've seen. If anything, it just makes it more bland than truly awful. This is small potatoes up against films like Monster or Terror Toons. Overall, I give Nukie a 4 out of 10. The best way I can sum up my feelings is by quoting the great James Rolfe. It's bad, but in a boring way. I've seen worse. It's not so bad that I had to pause the movie multiple times to recuperate from the stupidity I just sat through. Thanks for watching, and thanks again to Aficianados Chris for recommending this movie, who I will say to him, Chris, if this was a movie you wanted me to review to break me mentally, you're gonna have to try a lot harder than a subpar ripoff movie. But as always, I'm Dr. Waluigi, and remember, don't judge a book by its cover, 'cause you'll never know what's inside. Good night, everyone.